tonight, Donald Trump says he's going to do a separate event, and his separate event is going to be to, quote, benefit veterans. You'll recall Trump did a fundraiser last year on an aircraft carrier, using veterans as props. And he said he was doing it to raise money for a group called Veterans for a Strong America, which had one employee and didn't give out money to anybody and basically scammed Trump, apparently, or Trump was in on the scam. Nobody knows. They lost their nonprofit status. Their founder's under investigation, both in Arizona and Texas. And say what? Oh, you're talking to him. Okay. And also Jeff Reichoff, the nation's largest veterans organization, the Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America, which represents 150,000 veterans across the country. Actually, I'm not sure if they're the nation's largest. There may be VFW and stuff like that that's larger, but they're the largest that's an activist organization. The founder and CEO, that's Paul Reichoff, he said, if offered, IAVA will decline donations from Trump's event. We need strong policies from candidates not to be used for political stunts. In other words, not using veterans for political stunts. So the veterans are saying to Trump, no thanks. Although Trump keeps saying he's going to give the money to the Wounded Warrior Project, which raises the question. And I've said this many times on this program, and I'll say it again. And when I was saying it before, I didn't know what I know now because I just read Dave Phillips' piece in today's New York Times, yesterday's New York Times, which is an absolute shocker. The headline is Wounded Warrior Project spends lavishly on itself, insiders say. And this is the privatization of public function, right? Our federal government should be taking care of our veterans. But Republicans keep cutting the budget. This whole Reagan's theory of starve the beast was laid out at the time as a good thing by David Stockman, and then later on, when David Stockman wrote his Mea Culpa, his apology book, it was portrayed as a bad thing. But basically, the starve the beast philosophy that the Republicans pursue works like this: Step 1. The only thing preventing billionaires from having more power and wealth is government. It's the only power that can balance their power. So, for example, last night on a TV show, I had Jane Mayer on for an hour, and she pointed out that one of the largest producers of toxic waste in this country is Koch Industries, if not the largest, certainly one of the largest. One of the largest producers of pollution in the United States is Koch Industries. And through their front group, Americans for Prosperity, they've gotten over 150 legislators to sign a pledge that they will do nothing to stop climate change if it costs any money whatsoever. Right? This is the kind of bizarro reality that we have stepped into in this idea that everything private works wonderfully and everything public sucks. So step 1 in Reagan's strategy: blame the government, right? He did that when he was inaugurated. Step 2, starve the government of funds to the point where people start having bad experiences interacting with the government, to the point where it takes 4 hours to get somebody from the Social Security Administration on the phone, to the point where it takes 6 hours standing in line to get your driver's license. Starve the government of money, starve the beast, to the point where people start saying, I hate this government, this doesn't work. And then when public opinion turns against the government, and they've been doing this for 34 years. It's really starting to work. When public opinion turns against the government, then you roll out private options, private alternatives to the government. We no longer have the Seabees, the construction corps, right? In the military. We now have private for-profit contractors. Well, in the case of our vets, same thing. Starve the VA, starve Social Security, disability, and whatever other funds, TRICARE, and all these things that are available to veterans. Starve them so that veterans have to wait 6 months or a year even to get into the benefit program. Opening a space for a private charity to step in and fill the void, because everybody knows everything done private is better than government. BS. Right. This Dave Phillips article in the New York Times, Wounded Warrior Project, and I keep saying this should not even exist. The Wounded Warrior Project should not exist. We should be funding this through our tax dollars. It has spent millions a year on travel, dinners, hotels, and conferences that often seem more lavish than appropriate. More than 4 dozen current and former employees said in interviews. Former workers recounted buying business class seats and regularly jetting around the country for minor meetings or staying at $500 a night hotel rooms. About 40% of the organization's donations in 2014 were spent on overhead. They spent $124 million on salaries, on rent, it's a nonprofit, so they don't declare dividends, but they pay good money to the people who work there. They compare that with the Semper Fi Fund, which is a wounded veterans group that spends only 8% of its overhead. The federal government spends about 2% of its overhead, right, on administration. Wounded Warrior Project, 40%. This is amazing. And Mr. Nardizzi, the guy who's the head of it, makes $473,000 a year. This, Connie Chapman, who was in charge of the charity's Seattle office for 2 years, I'd fly to New York for less than a day to report to my supervisor. All staff members flying to the charity's office at a military hospital in Germany traveled in business class. One current employee said her last-minute ticket cost $7,000. Yikes.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-536-2370.
But this is Republican world. This is Trump world, right? Kill the government, diminish the role of government, bring in the private organizations, and let somebody make a buck. To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here. And please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.